One Zambia, One Nation. Thanks for joining us on ZANIS News. My name is Chisha Mutale. The headlines. U.S. announces $16 million support to Zambia. United States Vice President arrives in Zambia. Crocodiles threaten livelihood in Kabompo district. Plus continued vandalism of Mulonga water pipes, worrying. And now we have the news in detail. The United States Vice President Kamala Harris has announced support worth over 16 million United States dollars towards Zambia's programs. Ms. Harris observed that President Hakainde Hichilema has put in place measures to strengthen Zambia's economic transformation. Speaking during a press briefing at State House in Lusaka today, U.S. Vice President explained that her visit to Zambia includes advancing cooperation between the two countries with focus on economic transformation. The American Vice President adds that increased investment in democracy and governance programming expands global health efforts and innovations in climate solutions. She notes that U.S. and Zambia maintain a strong relationship based on shared democratic values, growing commercial engagement, and long-standing health cooperation. And President Hichilema expressed delight with the assured support from the U.S. government, saying that it is essential towards Zambia's economic development agenda. President Hichilema says that once the economy is unlocked, it will create more investments in the country. The head of state also disclosed that government is keen to invest in areas such as skills and technology. Mr. Hichilema said that his administration governs with a clear focus and will continue upholding the principles of good governance, equity for all people as the country remains democratic by choice. He has, however, encouraged cooperation with America, among other countries, in commercial development and investment in areas of accountability and stability, which is an important ingredient to the economic transformation agenda. President Hichilema also thanked the U.S. President Joe Biden for giving Zambia an opportunity to co-chair the just-ended Second Summit for Democracy.
Zambia has indeed embarked on an ambitious democratic reform agenda under your leadership, Mr. President. And as I have said previously on this trip, democracy and good governance around the world is a priority for the United States, and we will always stand with those who are fighting for those principles. To that end, I am pleased to announce more than $16 million for new programs in Zambia, including a focus on anti-corruption and other reform efforts. Mr. President, thank you. Thank you. You and I have had extensive conversations about the economy and the work that you have done, and I congratulate on behalf of being a partner with you and just observing what you have done as a leader and as president to put real measures in place to strengthen the economy in Zambia. And the work that you have done is about also implementing an economic reform agenda. We will remain a strong partner to build long-term economic growth and boost investment in Zambia.
We're very pleased to know that your own priorities, your own support, historical support to us as a people, American people, to Zambian people, is well appreciated. You've made announcements in a number of areas. You will do that in other areas. I think that's your forte. I will simply say we appreciate that support, historical support, and ongoing support. In many areas, commercial development, investments in areas of accountability, stability, which are essential ingredients to the economic growth agenda. I wish to say once more, priority for us, Vice President Harris, as a country now, is to rebuild our economy. In there sits macro stability, the environment that will allow us to support increased investment, trade, and the like.
Meanwhile, United States Vice President Kamala Harris this afternoon visited the National Assembly. Ms. Harris, who arrived at National Assembly at 17:09 hours in the company of Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff, was received by Speaker of the National Assembly, Nelly Muti, and the acting clerk of the National Assembly, Roy Ngulube. The Vice President then proceeded to sign in the visitor's book, which was placed at the start of the famous steps of the main building. Ms. Harris then posed for pictures at the foundation stone laid by Princess Royal and Countess of Harewood Mary on October 26, 1964, before leaving the Parliament buildings. Ms. Harris is in the country for a 2-day official visit, which is part of her Africa tour of Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. The tour is a result of the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit held in November 2022 in Washington, D.C., which was hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden. Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry Felix Mutati says the Memorandum of Understanding MOU between the United States of America and Zambia on commercial development will contribute to the reduction in the cost of doing business. Mr. Mutati says technological innovations in the business sector will reduce the cost of doing business and contribute to the economic development of the country. Meanwhile, Energy Minister Peter Kapala says the planned $7 billion United States Public Sector Development Fund for Africa will be a game changer for Zambia in the energy sector, especially in electricity generation. Jonathan Mukuka filed in this report.
United States of America Vice President Kamala Harris has visited Zambia on her last leg of her visit to Africa. The U.S. Vice President, who started her visit to Africa with Ghana, flew in from Tanzania today and held a joint press conference with President Hakainde Hichilema at State House. Commerce Minister Felix Mutati spoke to the media after the joint press conference.
The Vice President has come with a number of investors, some of them in technology. So it's for us to develop a collaborative, framework. Number two, to be practical and say how can we attract the big boys in technology.
Mr. Mutati says technological innovation will boost the country's economic growth.
It means for the region, we are reducing the cost of doing business. We are connecting people faster. We are expanding opportunities. And for me, it's very, very exciting. And I think we're going to harvest from our visit.
On the planned $7 billion United States Public Sector Development Fund for Africa, Energy Minister Peter Kapala said Zambia will use the money to improve electricity generation in the country.
Currently, we are sitting at only 8%, so we are in a hurry to ensure that we get to the 51% access. Even more should the American government come on board to most likely provide standalone mini grids in rural areas that are not on the main grid. Once we get those, we should be able to achieve the 51% access to electricity in rural areas.
Well, on our last leg visit of Africa, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has visited Zambia. And today she was here at State House where she held a press conference together with the President of Zambia, His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Reporting from State House in Lusaka, I'm Jonathan Mukuka.
United States Vice President Kamala Harris arrived to a warm welcome at the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in Lusaka. Ms. Harris, who is accompanied by her husband, the second gentleman, Douglas Emhoff, was received by the Vice President Mtalena Lumango, Minister of Information and Media Chushi Kasanda, Lusaka Province Minister Sheo Mliata, and other senior government officials. While in the country, the U.S. Vice President is scheduled to take part in various engagements focusing on matters of mutual interest at bilateral, global, and regional levels. The Vice President's visit will also serve to advance U.S. assistance to Zambia in accessing the digital economy, strengthening business ties and investment through innovation, entrepreneurship, as well as economic empowerment to women. Zambia becomes the third country that Ms. Harris has visited in her long week tour of Africa besides Ghana and Tanzania. In Tanzania, the Vice President delivered her maiden speech to youths about innovation and women empowerment. Ms. Harris is on a mission to strengthen the U.S.-Africa relationship in order to spur economic development and opportunities, and also address issues of climate change, food security, and the rising youth population. Tomorrow, Saturday, the Vice President will proceed to Panuka Farm, a farm practicing climate-proofed smart agriculture in Chiwombo District. President Hakainde Hichilema has challenged the Geological Society of Zambia, GSZ, to employ modern, innovative ways of mineral exploration. President Hichilema said the explorations should aim at discovering strategic rare minerals, which are on demand on the international market. The president said this in a speech read for him by Minister of Mines and Minerals Development, Paul Kabuswe, during the official opening of the 2023 GSZ Conference and Annual General Meeting. More in the following report.
Zambia is one of the countries that is endowed with abundant mineral resources. Apart from the traditional minerals that are mined, the country has huge deposits of undiscovered rare minerals and metals. It is for this reason that President Hakainde Hichilema has implored the Geological Society of Zambia to come up with modern, innovative ways of mineral exploration for the benefit of the country. The president said this in a speech read for him by Minister of Mines and Minerals Development Paul Kabuswe during the official opening of the 2023 Geological Society of Zambia Conference and Annual General Meeting.
Apart from conducting exploration for traditional minerals, the society must also employ innovative ways of exploration and focus on discovering strategic minerals, including lithium, beryllium, niobium, tantalum, and the rare earth metals which are in high demand.
And Geological Society of Zambia president says there's need to unlock economic potential of minerals such as lithium, graphite, and rare earth elements through a robust geological exploration.
Zambia has a huge economic potential for copper, cobalt, lithium, graphite, and rare earth elements, not forgetting the potential for hydrocarbons and industrial minerals. The economic potential of minerals such as lithium, graphite, and rare earths need to be unlocked through robust geological exploration by the team in this conference.
Meanwhile, Minister of Mines and Minerals Development, Acting Permanent Secretary Cynthia Belengu, says the country is in the process of conducting a countrywide geological exploration to discover more copper and other mineral resources using advanced technology.
Government is focusing on a number of issues. One of them is accelerating countrywide mapping and geological exploration to discover more copper and other mineral resources using advanced technology.
The Geological Society of Zambia has since urged the government to come up with a body that will regulate geoscience professionals. For ZANIS, I'm Lakson Makodza.
Now, Central Province Permanent Secretary Milner Mwanakampwe says rapid response teams have been deployed in districts that have been affected by measles to offer vaccination and guidance on prevention measures. Mr. Mwanakampwe reveals that the region has recorded 26 cases in the first quarter of 2023. Mr. Mwanakampwe named the affected districts as Chiwombo, Chisamba, Kabwe, Kapirimposhi, Luano, Mukushi, Mumbwa, Ngawe, and Shibuyunji. The Permanent Secretary has since assured the people in the affected districts that the government is doing everything possible to ensure the measles vaccination campaign is intensified and that all the required precautions have been put in place.
Provincial administration working with the Provincial Health Office, we must up our game in terms of the campaign to alert our people and those that may be sick, like we now actively have 2 cases that are active, one in Kapirimposhi and another one here in Kabwe. We need to make sure that we prevent this disease from spreading to other places, if you like, or other households that may not have had or have been hit by the measles disease. So for now, yes, we can confirm that Central Province has not been spared as well.
Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock Permanent Secretary Anna Songolo says the ministry will this year in June embark on the test and slaughter program of cattle to contain the contagious bovine pleuropneumonia CBPP that has ravaged Western Province for over 23 years. Ms. Songolo says there is need to change the strategy used in containing CBPP by finding a sustainable solution to the problem. She notes that only the herds of cattle that will be found positive in the province will be slaughtered and beef will be sold to benefit the affected farmers. The permanent secretary explained that the test and slaughter is the only way the deadly disease can be eradicated in the province. Meanwhile, Wampa District Commissioner Alfred Mandumbwa highlighted a number of challenges that the Department of Fisheries and Livestock is facing, which include transport, understaffing, and accommodation. Kabompo District Commissioner Hubert Chinyanga has called on the Zambia Wildlife and Management Authority to quickly consider cropping the increased crocodile population in the Kabompo River. Mr. Chinyanga says that the population of the reptiles is now endangering the villages along the Kabompo River as they widely depend on the river for their livelihoods. Also in the news, residents of Nambuluma area in Chinsali district are dismayed over the increased contribution of waste by truck drivers at Nambuluma Junction in Chinsali district in Muchinga province. Evaristo Katongo, one of the concerned residents trading at the junction, says truck drivers that park their trucks at Nambuluma Junction dispose their waste near their trading places indiscriminately. Details in this report.
This is Nambuluma Junction in Chinsali district, where many of these trucks, which are mostly from Tanzania, park due to lack of a truck parking bay. With the truck parking bay still under construction, truck drivers who park here have become a source of concern to traders with regard to their indiscriminate disposal of waste. Residents at Nambuluma Junction are now calling for government's intervention.
Which is very, very, very bad.
The local authority is equally dismayed with this development here, and they have since assured the residents of addressing to this public health concern.
I must mention that this is actually a public nuisance, and our members of our public health team is actually on the ground to respond to this concern. So we as a local authority won't tolerate this public nuisance, and we strongly urge the truck drivers and the members of the public in general to ensure that they abide by the laws and regulations that we have set in place.
Besides the indiscriminate disposal of waste here, truck drivers have also been blamed for the increasing levels of prostitution at Nambuluma Junction. Henry Lumpa Jr., ZANIS in Chinsali, Muchinga province.
Government calls on the House of Chiefs to quickly focus its efforts on working with the government to address instabilities in the chiefdoms. Northern Province Permanent Secretary Bernard Mpundu said this during a meeting organized to elect a new member of the 6th House of Chiefs to replace the late Chief Munkonge. Mulonga Water and Sanitation Company, MWSC, says continued vandalism of infrastructure is a drawback to the company's efforts to improve water supply. MWSC Public Relations Manager Bright Mtonga says it has become costly for the company to keep replacing the same infrastructure. He said the company is working closely with the Zambia police to curb the rampant vandalism. Mr. Mtonga said continued thefts of electricity service cables and other infrastructure have led to frequent water blues. He said vandalism of infrastructure in Mufrila has become so rampant that it takes place even during the day. He said the ready market for vandalized items has made it difficult to control the vice. He said the company will continue working together with the police to secure the new infrastructure currently being installed under the Zambia Water and Sanitation Project. And finally, the Ethical Institute and Leadership Academy, EILA, has bemoaned the continued moral decay in society, which has led to an increase in drug and alcohol abuse, murder, and defilement in the country. EILA Executive Director Haydn Kapandula says morals and values are extremely low in the country, a situation which has led to a lot of negative vices. Audrey Kalenga reports.
Moral decay has become a matter of national concern in various communities of Zambia. Issues of drugs, alcohol abuse, and murder have become the order of the day in the recent past. Today, the Ethical Institute and Leadership Academy, through the Character-Wise program, organized a 2-day workshop to discuss the rampant increase in the vices and find the way forward.
We are born with that greatness, but what will keep you on top of whatever achievement you have is what? It's character. And character is the foundation on which you can build anything. You know, the foundation of everything is what is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot build a Findego house kind of a building on a pit like tin foundation. It's impossible, right? Before you know it all, when the storms come, the disaster is terrible. So same with our lives, you know. When our lives are filled up with the good morals, the good values, that's what gives us that strength and stamina to stand the test of time, the storm that will come.
And Great North Road Academy proprietor Rosia Siatwambo has called on parents and the school authorities to work together to raise a good foundation for children from the grassroots.
And this culprit is a parent. But how do we bring these parents on board? Because if we bring them to say, come on board and so on, you know the nature of parents. Every parent thinks they are raising an angel, and they're fine. They're cool with their child, and the child is the best child ever. But you have these children now, we are interacting with them every day. To the parents, this child is okay, but as we know, there are these issues. That's when now we fully now brought on a program which we started last year, and it's called Parental Engagement, where now we started calling now these parents for classes. We said now, I think these are okay. The ones who are sick are the ones who remained at home. So we started now engaging these parents into classes, these parental engagements. And from last year, it started on a slow note. We started on a slow note. Our classes were very effective, and those who attended those classes, they appreciated. And where these consultants now came in, and they showed them even some of the questions that learners were asking. Because some of them would just tell them, can you write on a piece of paper any question you have? And don't write your name.
The 2-day workshop has attracted participants from the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Sports, MISA Zambia, among other representatives. Audrey Kalenga, ZANIS News, Lusaka.
As we end ZANIS News, the headlines are once again. U.S. announces $16 million support to Zambia. United States Vice President arrives in Zambia. Crocodiles threaten livelihood in Kabompo district. Plus continued vandalism of Mulonga water pipes, worrying. Well, that's all we had for you on ZANIS News. My name is Chisha Mtale. Pleasant viewing.